On behalf of the government and the people of Fiji, I extend to all the participants here at this Pacific Conference on Ending Violence Against Children a most warm welcome. We have gathered here representatives from 13 countries, and Fiji is honored to host such a noble forum for a very topical agenda. This is also the first occasion and visit to the Pacific of the Special Representative of the Secretary General on Violence Against Children. It is fully acknowledged and much appreciated by us all. I want to wish her well and trust that her visit will be educational and rewarding to all concerned. This is a historic event, as countries from around the Pacific come together to acknowledge the harm caused by violence against children and work together to find ways to prevent and address violence against children. This is the key outcome for this regional forum and a well overdue wake-up call. We all have to rise to this rallying call, and the rallying call it must be. Every child has the right to survive, grow, and be protected from all forms of violence. Yet, for thousands of children around the Pacific, they have either experienced or witnessed some form of violence. Violence cuts across boundaries of age, geography, religion, ethnicity, and income. It can take many forms, including physical, sexual, emotional, and verbal abuse, and may involve neglect or deprivation. Violence can also affect children in an indirect way. Witnessing domestic violence between parents, for example, or between a partner and his or her partner. It often happens in the safest places for children: homes, schools, communities, and even on the internet. Children are our most precious gift. Yet, every day, children live in fear. Fear for themselves, fear for their siblings, and, in too many cases, fear for their mother's safety. We must recognize that no violence against children is justifiable, and that all violence against children is preventable. Yet the evidence shows us that many children live with violence. I want to leave this statement with you as you deliberate on the proceedings at this meeting. Children of the Pacific cannot wait to be free from violence, wherever they are. You are all given the opportunity now to make that difference, and we all owe it to our beloved children. Overall, public acceptance of violence as a suitable punishment for children remains high in Pacific countries. In countries where baseline data exists, more than 70% of adults admit to using violent punishment on children at home. The Pacific is also home to 3 of the top 5 countries globally with the highest proportion of adolescent boys who are supportive of wife-beating. Only 10% of children in the Pacific are fully protected by law from corporal punishment. Children in the Pacific also experience high rates of bullying, including in school and increasingly online. Whilst the challenge of addressing violence against children is substantial, proven strategies exist. Essential components of any strategy to end violence against children are political will, partnership, and public commitments. The Prime Minister of Fiji, Vorenke Bainimarama, has given us the high-level mandate to end domestic violence in Fiji when he officially opened the recent Pacific Parliamentary Women's Forum, and I quote, "Because the current level of domestic violence in our midst is woefully, unacceptably high, it is, in fact, a cause for regional shame. And we must all do a lot more to stop it. At a government level, we have zero tolerance for domestic violence in Fiji. Whether it is men beating women, women attacking men, parents hitting children, it is not acceptable, full stop. And we have given instructions to all the instruments of state that the perpetrators of domestic violence are to be subject to the full force of the law," unquote. Political will. Violence against children is a silent epidemic. Limited data exists on the extent and the scope of the problem. We also know that the little information we do have reflects on a widespread culture of underreporting. Social stigma, lack of services, and a prevailing attitude that violence is acceptable in some forms all contribute to the hidden nature of these crimes against our children. Breaking the silence on violence against children requires commitment and leadership at all levels of society, from caregivers to teachers and doctors, to media professionals, and to those holding positions of responsibility, including all of us in this room. We need to speak out about violence and abuse and not shy away, be afraid, or decide it is too hard to address. We can help give voice to the thousands of children who suffer daily as a result of violence and abuse. And if we can't speak out, we have to ask ourselves, who can? A commitment to ending violence against children must be enshrined in our most basic tenets of governance. Here in Fiji, the rights to a violence-free childhood is enshrined in our 2013 Constitution under the Bill of Rights. The Constitution guarantees children's protection from abuse, neglect, harmful cultural practices, any form of violence, inhuman treatment and punishment, as well as hazardous or exploitative labor. All governments of the Pacific have signed the Convention on the Rights of the Child. Protection from violence is safeguarded under this convention, and it is our responsibilities as signatories to the convention to ensure that we put in place legislation and resources to ensure full implementation of the convention's provisions. Sufficient investment in child protection will result in positive outcomes for individual children, as well as society as a whole. Investing in our children's health, well-being, and development can only lead to exponentially greater rewards than what we invest. We know this from tracking investments in the health and the education sectors. The same holds true for investing in child protection. It is encouraging to note the greater investments in child protection in a number of countries across the Pacific, where we are witnessing significant reforms being undertaken in legislation and increased budget allocation to essential services. These are good beginnings, but of course, more can still be done. Partnerships. This is a big problem that requires smart solutions. We need a strong coalition to take on the challenge of ending violence against children. Child protection is an area that requires an integrated approach across family, welfare, health, education, and justice. No one sector can work in isolation. A holistic approach to protecting a child requires an equally holistic coalition of partners. We may have limited resources. We may have financial challenges, limited human resources, and a multitude of pressing concerns to address. But if we are serious about protecting our most vulnerable, the same beautiful children we hold in our arms and promise to protect on the day they come into this world, then this must be a priority. Anything else is just an excuse. All of these limitations can be overcome when we work in partnership by pooling knowledge, expertise, resources, and learning together. We are better able to come up with solutions that are sustainable. One area that requires new thinking is ensuring we address both violence against women and violence against children. These two forms of violence are interlinked at all levels of family and society, and the consequences can run through generations. Where a mother is a victim of violence, her children are also more likely to be victims of violence. This includes children that are physically, sexually, and emotionally abused, and children that are impacted from watching their mothers, who they love and care for, being abused. How can we address this? Appropriately specialized services that provide integrated support to women and children are most effective in providing long-term and sustainable care and support. Given limited resources, it is also a way to maximize impact. After all, the nurse who treats a woman who is abused is most likely the same nurse that treats a child that was or has been abused. The role of partnership with the non-formal sector is also crucial, and I am pleased that we have at this conference representatives from faith-based organizations, civil society, and non-government organizations. Welcome. Your ability to influence the grassroots level, reaching out to families and communities, is essential in changing attitudes, behavior, and service provision. In these partnerships, we must not forget to include the family, which is the first institution whereby these values should be taught. It is not really the matter of what we say, but of what we do, as children do imitate the examples of the significant adults in their lives. Parents, therefore, must be assisted to know how to impart positive parenting skills because of the great influence they have in their children's lives. Commitment. Ending violence is everyone's business. At the individual level, we must make a commitment to ensure our actions are protective of children, that we do not get carried away in anger or frustration, and that we take personal accountability and responsibility for the impact of our actions. It starts with us. At a community level, we must commit to speaking out and ending the silence that surrounds violence and abuse of children. We need to promote tolerance, compassion, and a culture of nonviolence. We can work to ensure that social norms that contradicted these values are replaced by ones that nurture and support our children's well-being. The commissioning of the first National Child Helpline has created an opportunity for children of Fiji to seek counseling, report on violence, and learn of their rights, which, by the way, comes with responsibilities. Their right to be heard is clearly stipulated in the Convention on the Rights of Children, and Fiji commits fully to the CRC. May I commend the work of UNICEF and the Government of Australia in this project, and I am happy to share that this enterprising initiative will be scoped as Fiji perseveres to develop the domestic violence helpline. At the political level, we must commit to ensuring resources are adequate to prevent and respond to violence, including developing clear targets and integrating these into national development plans. Our target to end abuse, exploitation, and trafficking, and all forms of violence and torture against children is likely to be included in the post-2015 development agenda. This will require each government of the Pacific to develop national plans to reach the targets in the Sustainable Development Goals and robust systems to monitor progress. Equally, if governments are to meet the post-2015 commitments on children's education, health, and well-being, we must ensure that no child lives in fear and all children live free from violence. To eliminate violence against children, there are three things we need to do as a matter of priority. First, we need smart, strong laws and the will and resources to enforce them. This is very fundamental. Second, to help families cope, we need robust social and family welfare systems that support parents to build a nurturing environment for their children. Third, we need to change harmful norms and practices so that all our communities become places where no act that endangers a child is considered acceptable. Each one of these issues will be examined in detail over the course of the next few days. Violence against children occurs every day, everywhere. And while it harms children the most, it has a damaging impact on society, undermining stability and progress. But violence against children is not inevitable. It is preventable if we refuse to let violence remain hidden. The evidence requires us to act for the sake of all Pacific children. there is much that we can do to protect our children. Let us join together to take action and to ensure that all children are safe from violence and abuse. Thank you for this opportunity to address you at the beginning of this conference. I know that the outcomes will be great for the Pacific region, and it will probably extend elsewhere. So I now have much pleasure in declaring open this seminar. Thank you. Vinakabakalevu, Shukriya, Bahut Dynavad.